Welcome, everybody. We are picking up from our um, recess from this 5:15 special city council meeting. And so we're reconvening. That's the word I'm looking for. Reconvening. Just have to look at the agenda. And so would like to first start with a Pledge of Allegiance. And so Vice Chair White, if you wouldn't mind leading.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'd just like to observe a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Do we have any acknowledgments from the council that they'd like to share at this point? Okay. First up on the agenda then, we have approval of minutes. So from the joint work session of December 3rd, 2024, Councilmember Blair.
Yes, thank you, Chair Ritchie. I have reviewed those minutes and found them to be accurate.
From the regular meeting of December 3rd, 2024, Councilmember Myers.
Mr. Chair, I've read the meeting minutes and find them accurate.
Thank you. And from the closed session and special meeting of December 10th, 2024, and joint work session of December 10th, 2024, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair, I have reviewed those minutes and they accurately reflect the content of those meetings. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes listed in the agenda.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Myers to approve the minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Appears to be unanimous. Thank you. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have reports from administration, the proposed PATH program, and we invite Linda Lartigue, our community engagement administrator, to come up and present on this item. Welcome, Linda.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for having me today. Today we're here to talk about the Ogden's Path to Citizenship program. So we have nearly 60,000 individuals in the state of Utah that are eligible for naturalization. Of that total, approximately just over 3,300 reside in Weber County. And on average, individuals spend about 7 years as lawful permanent residents in the United States before attaining naturalization. The USCIS criteria to become naturalized U.S. citizens is they have to be at least 18 years of age, and this is for them to apply themselves. They must be lawfully admitted and permanent residents of the United States. They should have resided in the United States as lawful permanent residents for at least 5 years. And as I mentioned when I presented during the work session, if an individual has been here, let's say, for 4 years, and something happens and they have to go back to their home country for something, and they come back, that clock starts all over again. They have been physically present in the United States for at least 30 months, and then be a person of good moral character. Our community partners for this program in the 2024 cycle and also moving forward were Weber County Library Systems, Catholic Community Services, My Hometown Ogden, and United Way of Northern Utah. For the first cohort, Weber County Library Systems offered the citizenship classes. They offered the location where we had the classes. Catholic Community Services offered all of the legal services. My Hometown Ogden offered volunteers for a mini literacy program in case parents needed to bring their children, which that was not a need during the first cohort. And then they also offered one-on-one tutors for when individuals were ready to have their interview with USCIS. And United Way of Northern Utah this past year were our physical agents. The 2024 PATH cohort. In 2019, Salt Lake County awarded Ogden City with a $20,000 grant as part of a statewide initiative to enhance naturalization efforts. In 2023, Ogden's Path to Citizenship program was introduced as a one-time initiative in partnership with local community organizations. The program aimed to assist individuals in becoming naturalized U.S. citizens while promoting civic engagement. Applications for the program opened to the public in November of 2023, with classes running from January to March of 2024. We enrolled 18 participants, and as of today, 17 of those have successfully attained their U.S. citizenship. And then on September 30th, 2024, we hosted a small oath ceremony for 9 of those participants. There was a question the last time as far as what countries some of these individuals came from. And those countries that were represented were Germany, South Africa, Brazil, Bolivia, and Mexico. The proposal that we have for you today is to formalize Ogden's Path to Citizenship program as a permanent city initiative and to offer it as on an annual basis. Our community partners will stay the same: Weber County Library Systems, Catholic Community Services, My Hometown Ogden, and United Way of Northern Utah. The only change to what the community partners are doing lies with United Way of Northern Utah. They will no longer act as our physical agent. There's no need for that. They will continue to offer resources to the participants of the program. And then here is our budget. We've discussed it before. Catholic Community Services will be awarded $50 per participant. For each cycle, we have a max of 30 participants that we can have in the class. We have the Welcoming America Conference that we attended this last year. I attended this last year in 2024, and moving forward, we would like to offer that opportunity on a rotating scale to our community partners as well. And then other expenses is the N400 application fee, which is a cost of $710 per person. We had our graduation ceremony, which we conducted, and then we have a small discretionary fund as well. There was a question the last time regarding some of the items that are covered during that conference. I'm just going to go over just a few items that the pull-out sessions that I really felt like I took the most away from during this last conference. And some of those titles were working with local governments to build capacity in immigration legal services, developing infrastructure for language access at the state and local level, systems change and immigration engagement, collaborative models in small cities and rural towns. And lastly, intro to civic life, supporting immigrants and refugee participants in local government. So those were some of the topics that were covered during the session. And any questions that you all may have?
All right, any questions from the council on this? I know we had a good work session on this and had pretty good discussion. Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Linda, for presenting on this. I know this is it was neat to be part of this last year, and watching those go through the program and the graduation ceremony, and then ultimately doing the citizenship here in these chambers was a neat opportunity as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's not any other questions or discussion, we can look at a motion on this item.
Chair, regarding the proposed PATH program and proposed resolution 2025-3 to approve it, I move for approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Councilmember Graff and a second by Councilmember Blair to adopt proposed resolution 2025-3. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Blair.
Aye.
Councilmember Graff.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Myers.
Aye.
Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Chair Ritchie.
Aye. Thank you, and that passes. Okay. All right, thank you. We want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We have the next item on the agenda. I'm assuming most of you are here to talk about or hear about what we're talking about here. We appreciate everyone here, and just want to remind you of our council guidelines. We want everyone to be able to feel like they can express their feelings regarding, we want an atmosphere of mutual respect and civility as we go throughout this section. And the next item that we have on the agenda is the Weber Housing Authority. We don't necessarily have a presentation on this. This is an item that was presented on couple of things that have been happening sort of around as both in that December 3rd meeting, through emails, phone calls, and even in person. And so we appreciate those who have expressed their feelings on this project. As council members, we recognize the importance of having permanent supportive housing and to support the most vulnerable in our community. Last week, a week and a half ago, we had the opportunity, the Ogden Housing Authority just opened a facility with 54 units, the Solace Project on 31st and Lincoln. And I know they have plans to build an additional center with an additional 12 units on an adjacent property. And we're very supportive of these projects. The Housing Authority, Ogden Housing Authority has been doing the work in the city since about 1970. And our community is better for the projects that they've been able to complete and continue. A little bit on the timeline on this. The council office received the proposed resolution in November of last year. And so I can certainly empathize with the Weber Housing Authorities. They've been working with the city officials on this, and it's taken some time. And just in retrospect, thinking about the Ogden Housing Authority, that Solace Center, I think it was a 10-year lead up to where they were able to finally, the initial conception to when they were able to complete that project. And it doesn't necessarily have to take time, but as council members, we were presented with this and have been working hard. And I think I can speak for all council members as we've tried to weigh all the comments and understand the feelings and address concerns on these issues. Last week, we had a work session where many of the questions that the council members had were brought forth, and we appreciate Andy being here on that meeting to address those questions and concerns. Recognize there was an open house last night where more questions and answers could be had there as well. I think generally, the general feeling on those that, as we're continuing to ask the questions, is not necessarily questioning the value of Weber Human Services, or the Weber Housing Authority, sorry, and the permanent supportive housing projects. It's really more concerning on the location. And it's not even necessarily the location itself. It's more the fact that there is such a high concentration of group homes in that area, and just trying to understand what kind of an impact that may have on that area that we're looking to see, revitalization in such a historical important neighborhood in our community. As we have been having these discussions, the mayor's indicated that he would be willing to dedicate city resources towards determining if there may be an alternate location that may better suit the needs of the city. City staff has been working to ensure that is also working to make sure that any grant funding isn't lost. It's a high priority for us. It's not compromised in any way. That we can make sure that those funds can be used for this particular project. Really, ultimately, what we're seeking to find is a win-win solution, working with Ogden City, Weber County, and the Weber Housing Authority, and state officials to make sure that we're able to come to the table and be included in this. As a council, we appreciate that. As like I said, we were first notified of this in November of 2024. So, with having said that, we know you're here to express your opinions on this, and we do want to allow for a public comment period on this. We took comments, and I don't know how long we took comments on the December 3rd, but for quite some time. And so, just curious if there's the majority of the comments in that meeting were in favor of the project. I'm just curious to see if there are any people that are here to express concerns or have questions in that nature that are here to speak on that. So we have a couple here. Okay, so I think what we would like to ask is, yeah. No, that's okay. So what we would, what's that? Oh no, you're good. You're good. I think what we'd like to see is just an opportunity to let those who have those concerns speak first. We'd like to take public comment for 30 minutes and allow about a minute and a half per person who would like to speak on this item. We'd also like to ask if you'd state if you're a resident of Ogden, in particular, maybe in that East Central neighborhood. We'd like to know if that's where you're coming from. We don't need your specific address, just kind of curious on that. In the best use of our time, if you'd like to address the council, if you can maybe line up so we can, or queue up so we can minimize time between speaking. And then also, we know maybe there may be some similar concerns or similar questions or support. We'd like to just potentially avoid as much repetition as we can. Any new information is extremely helpful as we consider all points of views. And yeah. Let's see here. And then, yeah, we noticed that our Zoom broadcast isn't working, so we're not able to take comments online on this item, unfortunately. So, so those who are here to address with questions or maybe have concerns, we'd like to invite you to come up first. We'll get that going, and then actually before we do that, I know the mayor had some comments. I wonder if you would take a minute real quick on that, and then we can kind of talk about what our next steps might be.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just want to make the comment, and it's a bit of a reflection. The whole first year of my tenure has been really defined by planning, repurposing, and getting unfinished, unstarted projects to a starting point or to a completion point. And it's been a real challenge, and every single project has had different dynamics and different challenges and struggles, to the point where some of them have had to be completely unpacked and maybe reconceptualized and restarted in order to get it going in the right direction. This has clearly been the hardest of all of them. And in my view, it's a reflection of how we used to do things. And it's a reflection that needs to be something of the past for us. We've got to get to a point where everyone's at the table early, that we are transparent with each other, open and honest with each other, and that we have real input early so that we don't create circumstances like this moving forward. So my offer from last week stands: to commit the staff resources, commit my own time and energy to help find solution, to get us to a point where the concerns for the project are addressed, whether that's at a new location or new elements of the project or whatever that might be. The council and the community have my commitment to try and get us to a point that is win-win. That should be what we're always after. And that's certainly where my mind is at on this project. So,
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Again, we want to be respectful of everyone's time, and so again, if we can queue up in that way. We also just, again, our council norms, we ask that, you know, we hold applause or any kind of outburst that way, just to not create an environment where somebody maybe doesn't feel comfortable sharing how they feel. So, and then also as a reminder, you can, even after this public session hearing, our numbers, our emails are all available online, so you can certainly reach out in that way as well. And we try to answer those. Sometimes it takes a minute. We all have, you know, other jobs as well that we're working through. So, but we appreciate your patience as you share those with us. So let's go ahead and get that going. So welcome. So as you're coming up again, state your name, location, and then if somebody, whoever's ready to speak next, if you can just kind of queue up in the aisle there, that way we can just move through this that way.
Hello, Council. Jeremy Peterson, 20-year resident at 22nd and Jefferson Avenue. Like everyone else here, I want to help lift my fellow man, but I have to stand in opposition to this project. The controversy here isn't about having a desire to help others, but actually is about the consequences of how we choose to do that lifting. As a community, we need to be wise about balancing our obligation to help others with the real need that we have for order and safety in our communities. The facility itself, Weber Housing Services will have control over what happens inside that facility, but they won't necessarily have control of what happens outside of that facility. We have to ask ourselves if it's wise for us to take 25 of our highest risk individuals in our community, place them in a program that cannot and will not require sobriety, and place that 500 feet from our elementary school kids. You know, is that a proper thing to do? Is that good for our community? I have concerns about that as a parent, as a neighbor. Being in the neighborhood for 20 years, we've had our interactions with our homeless neighbors.
Oh, that's
Well, that's fast.
That's fast.
Well, let me just say that I spent 5 years as a lay minister, and I've worked for countless hours with these folks, scores of people, and I understand their afflictions and what motivates them. And I think my main concern is that someone who is addicted, if they don't have the personal desire or the incentive to clean up, they will satisfy their addictions in the streets, and that makes us unsafe.
Thank you.
Sorry about the horn.
That's okay. All right, thank you.
Hello, I'm Emily Taylor, an East Central Ogden City resident. And so I've lived at my home for the past 2 years with my 7-year-old daughter, and I share the fence lane with the facility along with 11 other residential properties that also have other families and children. Our neighborhood already struggles with high crime and poverty. My daughter can't use her scooter on the sidewalk without she can't use her scooter on the sidewalk without encountering unsafe situations. Now, Weber County Housing Authority plans to place homeless individuals, including drug addicts and mentally ill, directly in our backyards, where they would have a clear view into our homes. A 9-foot fence would be required to block this view. The Housing Authority would allow their residents to come and go into the area where drugs are readily available, increasing the risk of failure for both them and the community. They don't maintain their vacant lot that is directly next to my home, where I've had to ask people to not sleep there. I've found human feces there. If they can't maintain a small lot, how will they manage a facility where their residents are using hard drugs? Placing this project in a location will not improve our community that is already struggling. It will worsen safety concerns and degrade quality of life. The facility has already experienced break-ins, which is very common in this area. Even the mayor of Ogden City opposes its location, yet Weber County Housing Authority seems determined to move forward despite.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Yep.
Hello, my name's Ian Hale. I'm a South Ogden resident, but I spend a lot of time in this neighborhood because my partner and her daughter live there. I do think the issue is the location with this particular facility. With all transparency, it's kind of like a rehab facility, a long-term rehab facility. And I think Housing First is a good idea, but it acknowledges that these people are going to be using, but one of the only rules of the facility is you can't do it there. So that means you're gonna have to be going out into your community to accomplish that goal. I worked in Salt Lake at the University Neuropsychiatric Institute for a short period of time, but it seemed, I went to the open house and I was just having flashbacks to that. It's an incredibly difficult population to work with, and the facility, I don't believe, will have medical staff, security staff. It just seems like a nightmare. 25-2 in the evening is not even close to enough staff to handle situations like that. I think the noise and light pollution from medical services and police services would also highly impact the neighborhood. And I'm not really here to say not my neighborhood. I'm saying not this neighborhood. I would much prefer it in my neighborhood. It's a very safe place. My car was broken into, and before I even knew it happened, the man was arrested.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah.
Jessie Lundell. I live on 22nd, just below Jefferson, around the corner from Jeremy Peterson. Today I spent the day with my 5th grader in his class on a field trip to JA BizTown, a business simulator where 10 and 11-year-olds work at businesses like Maverick, Zions Bank, Delta, and they act as a mayor, a treasurer for the city, and the city attorney. In the volunteer training, they talk about one of the focuses being citizenship. And to kids at school, they just think citizenship is showing up every day. But to JA City, citizenship means supporting your neighbors, their businesses, and helping your community. Students took out loans for their businesses at the beginning of the day. Their goal was to earn enough throughout the day to pay back $100 of their loan. They had the option to donate to United Way at the end of the day. It was optional, although they encouraged the volunteers that were there to have your kids learn about the United Way. At the end of the day, every single business donated to United Way, even those that did not make money or were able to make a single payment on their loan. I walked around to every business there and asked the CFOs, who were 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds, why they donated. The responses were to be a good neighbor, to help those in need, and because if I can do it, then maybe other people can do it.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Stacy Frampton. I live a couple of blocks away from the proposed site and have for 21 years raised our children in this community and are trying to be supportive members. I think that everybody needs to have a safe place to live and sleep, but our neighborhood cannot be the solution to a problem that's much bigger than this community can handle. We're already disproportionately affected by mental illness and the problem of not having adequate resources. And I would just propose that this kind of housing be proposed in areas that are much better equipped to absorb the problems that unfortunately come with mental illness and drug abuse. I walk in Lester Park every day, and it's already not safe for my daughter to walk, my 16-year-old daughter to walk our dog by herself. It just is really heartbreaking to see. So I just think we need to get more resources into our community to support people who are already doing our best and provide safe places for people to live who have major problems in other areas of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hi, I'm Kent Frampton and the husband to Stacy. So it's been 21 years. The rules that we have in our house, my children often think aren't very kind, but we have them because we want to keep them safe, such as our curfew and other things. So it's our intent not to be not kind, but it's our intent to make sure they're safe. And so that is, my concern is that you just don't put a high-risk population in the middle of a community with families and homes and an elementary school right there, 2 parks. And it's already Lester Park. We just had a meeting in Lester Park this August because things have increased there that are a problem, this will just make that worse, make it harder. It's not a solution. So when we have things we need to address already. So I just hope it doesn't happen there so we can keep our community safe.
Thank you, Kent.
I'm Amy Wicks. I live in Ogden. I listened to the recording from the work session. I'm disappointed by some comments by council members illustrating a very clear and alarming lack of understanding of the issues facing the unsheltered in our community. We can't place supportive housing in an outlying area and demand that the population just have their prescriptions delivered by Amazon. With what phone, with what data plan, with what Amazon Prime account, and don't we want them to develop a relationship with a local pharmacy and pharmacist to help support them in succeeding in getting on the right path? Do they have a vehicle, insurance, and a valid driver's license if we put them somewhere further away from bus transit and services? An employer-provided bus pass? Their bicycles get stolen. They don't even have those. So what's the highest and best use for a purpose-built assisted living center? I would think that it's the supportive housing that's proposed. If not, will the city get involved and allow the building to continue to sit vacant for some more years and then purchase it with taxpayer funds and hand it over to one of their preferred developers? Does that create neighborhood stability? Do we isolate people from vital services in a walkable community? There's more guarantee of sobriety within the walls of the supportive housing than any random house in any neighborhood. And it will create stability. It will bring people in from the streets. Don't obstruct this from happening.
Thank you, Amy.
Hello, everyone. Taylor Kenneth, Ogden resident. I live 43 seconds from the new proposed project. Before I get into the project itself, I am going to raise a concern to Chair Ritchie regarding council norms and procedures. I know public input is not required on this item, but in your norms and procedures that were adopted in September of 2024, every resident here is entitled to up to 3 minutes. It does not say anything in your council rules and norms about limiting or reducing the available time people are entitled to for public comment. If we are in the public comment phase of this agenda item, every person in this room is entitled to speak for 3 minutes, as is suggested by your council rules and norms. Further, I find it troubling that printed agendas were not made available to the people in this room. My second point, and I'm going to use the full 3 minutes, and if you need to go into a recess to discuss this with Gary or Janine, this is the reality. It is Janine. I can read the law from the state of Utah. Everybody during the posted public comment section of this agenda is entitled to up to 3 minutes. And if you guys want to break your rules and norms that you adopted a few months ago, feel free to do that. But everybody in this room should understand that they're entitled to up to 3 minutes, period. Now, concerning the project, I really appreciate and respect everybody who showed up to our open house that we hosted with community leaders from around the neighborhood. I hear,
Thank you,
and I
Taylor.
am concerned too about the concerns Mr. Peterson and Emily and others have raised to the council, but I'm further concerned about Ogden Housing Authority's lack of positioning on the local homelessness coordinating council, which is a public meeting, Chair Ritchie. For 15 years, Ogden City has not sat at that table. It's on public record. The first time Ogden City in the last 15 years has engaged with the local homelessness coordinating council was in July of 2024. Do better. Thank you all.
Thank you.
My name is Alec Kent. I live in Ogden, and I support this project at the Aspen House. I have people who I'm very close with who would never be able to live on their own without support. It is important for people to have access to supportive housing within our city, not on the outskirts. They deserve to be loved and treated and cared for people no matter their disability, because they are two important members of our community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was her name?
Well, I'm sorry, what was your name? I didn't quite hear.
It was Isla Kent.
Isla Kent. Thank you, Isla.
I'm Jackie Kent. I'm Isla's mom. Also an
Jackie.
Ogden resident. We live together. I just want to start out saying I love Ogden a lot. And I think we are unique within Utah. And we talk about we getting our fair share of certain populations. And I think we're just lucky to have the populations that we have. And we're lucky that we have a small enough and big enough community that we can get things done and we can hear each other. And it's a pretty amazing place. And I think we can be, with this supportive housing project, a leader in that realm. We can show them how it's done, and we can show them how communities can come together, and we can build vibrant and walkable and livable communities for all people. And this supportive housing project that Andy proposed is just, I hope people can understand it more. I hope people through this understand what supportive housing really is, that these people are there, they're gonna pay rent, they have a house, they have an address. Having an address helps you get so many more resources. You can walk, maybe even get a job if they are able. And if they're unable, they have a home and they have a roof over their head in perpetuity. And these are our neighbors. And I feel like 10 years from now, we're gonna look back on this and be like, wow, we made a really good decision. And Ogden is so awesome. So I think we can come together and do this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie.
Hello, Council. I'm Carrie Harbath, Ogden resident. I know I emailed an article to you that I wrote, but also I'm here to kind of read that, and there's a little bit of tweak to it, so I hope you can bear with me. And it has an end, I promise. All right. So I'm part of the Panini generation. Our Christmas was spent in the hospital caring for my aging widower dad, while I balanced solo parenting as a widow by suicide myself to my disabled toddler, which is Sloan. She's in the back. We are a family really reliant on government systems. Medicare, Medicaid, DSPD, etc. And we always will be. As a solo mom to a profoundly disabled child, Ogden's permanent supportive housing project gives me the hope and faith that if I die like the rest of my family, she'd have other resources to care for her if need be. The reality I face every day is there aren't many alive caregivers left for Sloan. I've accepted my mortality, that's whatever. But I haven't accepted how horrific the system is for disabled adults like Sloan. We can do so much better. Sloan is just the cutest little kid in her hot pink chair and her pigtails. We love her. But in the blink of an eye, she'll be our age. And cute wears off. It doesn't matter anymore. And that's where my greatest fears set in. Who helps her then? Who's watching out for her? Sloan's medical needs go far beyond her lifelong disability of deafblindness, and it's stuff that a lot of people never see, because I manage it all. We are well known at Primary Children's. I'm a parent mentor there now, and Sloan currently has her own caseworker. And again, I've got it now, but she's going to grow up.
Thank you, Carrie.
Deciding against an unsheltered facility like this says to me that you view my disabled daughter, Sloan's life, as inferior to yours. It also says you view my wonderful, dynamic late husband Aaron's life, who died by suicide and needed mental health support, with judgment. as something that could just be thrown out on the streets.
Carrie, thank you.
So thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Can we just
Chair
pause
Ritchie.
real quick? Yeah, Janine, would you like to?
The 3 minutes is for public hearings. This is not a public hearing. Those are legally required hearings that are required by state statute. This is just an opportunity for residents to address the council. It's a privilege, not a right.
I can correct that.
Thank you.
This is
Carrie.
a continuation of a tabled item in which
It's not, and it wasn't a public hearing. Yeah.
It was not listed as public hearing, it was listed as public input, which as council norms describe, entitles you up to 3 minutes. And if you guys don't get your 3 minutes now, if you stay for the public comment period, you can comment during the public comment period, which is right after this item.
Taylor, thank you. Carrie, go ahead.
So I am Sharday.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Sharday Jones.
Sharday, thank you. Sorry, I knew
I'm
that.
also an Ogden resident here, and I've had the opportunity to work with our unhoused population working on a project. In 2018, the Alliance Project for Social Determinants of Health, and I've gotten to see firsthand how our supportive services that we do have in Ogden do help our residents and help our people that are experiencing homelessness, and how vital our services are and how important it is to have this facility where it is, because the people that we're describing, like others have echoed what other people have said, they need to be able to access these resources close to them. They don't have the cars, they don't have the support, they don't have the family members. Hopefully none of these people on the streets are your family members, but I hope that if they ever do become your family members, that you would meet them with the compassion. It's a public health issue. Not all of our unhoused people are dangerous. Not all of them are using drugs. Not all of them are unsafe. And this opportunity for them to be able to gain their life back and have the services that they need and the support that they need to become productive citizens of society. Not that they're not productive now, but it gives them the opportunity to begin to do what we're trying to do and mitigate this issue of homelessness, chronic homelessness in our area. If we don't do it first, who's going to do it? And the people who don't want this in their neighborhood, I don't know that many other people have brought it to our attention. So I'm grateful for Weber Housing Authority for bringing this project about, and I hope that you guys vote yes in favor of this facility.
Thank you, Sharday, and my apologies for getting your name wrong there.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Bramwell. I'm not a resident of Ogden. I live in Salt Lake City, but I own a property that is 2 blocks away from the location of the proposed location of this facility. And I think we should talk about the reason why we're here today. And the reason why we're all here today is because Weber County is trying to double dip on Ogden City that is already providing this service, in huge numbers providing this service. Ogden Housing Authority already provides this service. We have a homeless shelter that provides services. We have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of places that are providing services for homeless people in Ogden City already. So the reason why we're here is because Weber Housing Authority went above Ogden City and didn't include Ogden City in any of this plan, and just said we're gonna double dip and we're just gonna force more homeless people into Ogden City, rather than having any other city in Weber County carry a little bit of their share of the burden. They never could, because Ogden City's already carrying the lion's share of the burden. And I can tell you that I've had a lot of experience with homeless people in the property that I own in Ogden. More than any of these people in this room, I have dealt with homeless people. I am not being paid for any of it. I have been a crime victim 500 times, and I'm tired of it.
Thank you.
Thank
Teresa.
you.
So my name is Lucia Madrigal. I am Ogden resident.
I'm sorry, what was your name? I didn't.
Lucia Madrigal.
Okay, thank you.
I'm here because I would like to give like some peace to the people that is so concerned about this project. I was wondering like why we haven't looked at for studies that actually look this item. Like there's already places like these in other parts of the country that studies from the Furman Center at NYU, among others, have shown that providing housing to the homeless, particularly through supporting housing programs, does not negatively impact surrounding neighborhoods and can even lead to property value increases over time. Refuting common concerns about the impact of such development property values, these studies often analyze data around the immediate vicinity of the supportive housing development to assess the impact on nearby properties. Key findings for these studies: positive impact on property values. Studies have found, and I am really happy to send these studies to you, studies have found that property values near supporting housing developments tend to stabilize or increase over time, with some studies showing a slight decline following and a rebound as market adjusts to the presence of the housing. No significant negative impact on crime. Research generally does not show significant rise in crime rates in neighborhoods where supportive housing is located. Improved community stability. Providing housing to homeless individuals can lead to increased stability with a community by reducing visible presence of
thank you.
homelessness and associated issues like public health concerns.
Thank you. Yeah, and you're welcome to email that to us. Thank you.
Yeah, there are many, not just one.
Thank you. Yes.
All right. Hi, I'm Nick Milford. I live in Ogden, downtown, kind of near the East Central area. So we've heard a lot of emotional arguments, but I like talking value in dollars. And one argument I heard at one point was the opportunity cost of not building something of higher value here. And that seems like a solid argument, but there are probably some flaws to it. So I think that even when you look at the raw dollar amounts, the cost is being exaggerated and the value is being understated. It's not a homeless shelter and shouldn't be considered as such when making the value determination to the neighborhood. The plan is to give just enough support to the people who need it to be productive citizens. They'll still charge rent for the tenants. So you got value gained by more productive citizens not burdened by housing instability, and by those same citizens being far less to end up homeless after one bad break, which, if you look at the research, is usually how it happens. Next, let's talk time horizons. So this building is vacant, and Weber Housing Authority plans to fill it as is. If you were to replace it with something else, you'd need to find an interested developer, make the site plans, do the planning commission, city engineering back and forth, maybe go to the city council, demolish the old building, reroute all the utilities. If you wanted to replace them with cottage lots, you'd have to pave a new public street because the cottage lots have frontage requirements, then build the units and sell them. Shoot. So you gotta go through all those steps before seeing any ROI in any hypothetical alternative, whereas approving the building for this use starts providing any value much sooner. And then, I don't have much time, but I'll just say, there's plenty of other places to build these alternatives which aren't right on top of this building, which they want so badly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brooke Berrigan. I don't live in this neighborhood that we're talking about tonight, but I did. And I owned a business downtown, so the total of those together was most of my kids' childhood. And my kids scootered, and my kids ran around, and my kids made friends with their neighbors who were homeless. And we treated them like human beings, and we didn't treat them like pariah or lepers, as they did in the scriptures. Let's see, I just wanted to make that point before I move on to what I'm sort of a self-proclaimed expert in, which is disability. I have a daughter with disability, and I have a great-looking resume with regards to disability. So if you wanna ever pick my brain about that, I'm here for you. I actually wrote an amazing speech, but now I'm scared of broaching the minute and a half. And what I will say to you with regards to disability is that homelessness equals disability minus advocacy. That's the equation. Homelessness at its core is disability left unadvocated for. As I said, I have a daughter with a disability, and when she's othered at school, that's one of the new terms that the kids say is othered, it's because of inaction. It's not because of deliberate meanness most of the time, it's because of inaction. And if you're choosing to reject this project, that is inaction. We've already heard the brilliance behind why it needs to be where it needs to be, and that is because of resources. But if you reject this, it's inaction, and by doing so, you're perpetuating the problem. You're perpetuating homelessness.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lucy Berrigan. I live with Brooke and I'm 14 years old. I have been learning about this project and that there is a dilemma about it. And I feel like it was important to share my voice. I think that this project is a great opportunity for our community to do a good thing for some of its members. I have heard that some people are resistant to the project, but I can't understand the reasoning why. All we are trying to do is just give people a happy and good place to live. My family owned a bakery downtown and for a few years actually, and used to live in the neighborhood where the project is being held. And growing up there was very happy memories there, and I really didn't care if people were homeless or not. Everyone deserves their right to be loved and supported. Although although there may be problems as like substance abuse or may have mental disabilities, we still need to love. One thing I go by is inclusion, as living with my mom, because she's such an active advocate for disabilities, I became one too. And one word we go by is inclusion. So we should be inclusive and help these people because they are just trying to find a warm, happy place to live during the winter.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is George Berrigan. When I went to the open house last night, I looked and I got to read some interesting stories about people who have not been advocated for, and because of that, they have had to live on the streets without having a family to support them, without having like people there to help them through hard stuff. And it's not just drug use that causes people to make themselves homeless. It's they don't know how to like live because they have like a mental disorder. And the thing I don't understand is like I've lived on that street and and we can't just like not let the plan go into action there just because these people are homeless. We need to treat everyone in Ogden like a human, and we need to make it so that they have a place where they can like feel like they actually have a family and feel like they actually have a place to be in this community. And I've had like so many memories of me and my friends, and we would always walk past this like place by the 7-Eleven over by my old house, and this homeless guy, he would always say hi to me, and he knew my name. And I just hate for people who suffer like that
Thanks,
to not
George.
be able to have a place to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, George.
My name's Thomas Harrington. First of all, thank you for allowing me to have this time to share my comment. I'm currently living at the Solace Apartments in Ogden, Utah. Before that, I was living out in West Ogden, Utah. And I came here to Utah before the 2002 Olympics. So I was staying at the Homeless Veterans Fellowship, which is just down here on 23rd Street, back in the year 2000. What I've seen from then and compared to now is that Ogden City has cleaned up a lot. The drug task force has gone through and done their job. West Ogden, I don't see any more drug activity like there used to be. Things have changed. The thing that bothers me is that everybody at any point can become put into poverty. COVID-19 put a lot of people into a situation where they shut down the government, they shut down all these jobs, and now we're dealing with this fear of wanting to try, some people not wanting to help the homeless because they feel like, well, they should work just as hard, like the old grandpa story. I walked 25 miles up and down the hill in snow to school and everything like that. Make it harder instead of helping, you know? And I'm willing to be part of this process to better myself and be a productive member of society.
Thank
I'm
you,
not
Thomas.
worthless. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Hello, my name is Abby, and I have been an Ogden resident for over 20 years, sans 2 years that I was in Las Vegas getting my master's degree. My mother is homeless, my little brother is homeless, and my father is homeless. My little brother and my mom both live in Ogden, and it's very important that they are close to resources. They are working to get out of homelessness, but have been homeless for over a decade. And I have done everything I can to help them, but I need help too. So I'm asking you to reconsider the location. I do think this is a good location. I do think it's close to resources. It's close to other community members who have gone through similar struggles who can help them. And I ask that you look at evidence-based, I hope that you are doing research about this, and I hope that you're talking to people who live in Ogden, who've been, Ogden residents for a long time, who've been dealing with homelessness and drug use. And not just, people who are afraid, though I will say I empathize with everyone who's come up here and said that they are afraid, and I understand that. But homeless folks don't have to be scary, and drug use doesn't have to be scary. And I think that it's important for us to connect with each other and try not to continue to fan the flames of that fear, because it's not always valid, right? So anyway,
Thank you, Abby.
please consider that location. I think it's a good location.
Can I see how many we have lined up still? We've got 6. So we've exceeded our 30 minutes, but I'd like to ask if we can go through to the end of the gentleman with the cap, and we'll yeah.
There's more.
There's 2 more after that? Okay. So the gal in the red shirt. Thank you.
My name is Joanna Drubay. I own a commercial building in the East Central District at 24th and Washington. That's my office. I work out of that office. And I'm also a developer working on a mixed-use development at 17th and Washington. And so I'm very invested in the success of Ogden. And I echo everything supporters have said, and I'll just focus on saying we need to move faster on housing. It's a crisis. It's a wildfire. Like we can't move slowly to address the housing crisis. I think we just need to let this happen, and it's ready. It's teed up. It's only 25 units and 25 really individuals, not 25 households. That's not going to make or break or change the character or fix this neighborhood in a certain position. It's not huge. I think we need to move faster. And I listened to Kevin Lundell's podcast on this, and it was so insightful in terms of the very specific goals of this particular project. It's not just any homeless person. There's specific types of people. They're Ogden residents. They've been homeless for a long time. A lot of them have cognitive disabilities and have been taken advantage of. I think it's a great program.
Thanks, Joanna.
Heath Sato, Ogden resident. None of you are required to be sober to be up there tonight. And I keep hearing things, all these assumptions made about the people that will be supported here. And if we said that the things that were said about that population, about any other population, race, religion, it would be unacceptable to do publicly. We're in a rush to get out of here tonight. We got a minute and a half each because we have another warm room to go to. I know a lot of these people that would be housed in this place are housed elsewhere right now in temporary places. but they're taking the spaces of someone else that could be in that spot. And they are outside in the cold while we're in this warm room trying to get out of here to get someplace we're even happier in. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. I'd like to talk about two things. The first one being the definition of disability. We would not be here, we would not be discussing this if we were talking about permanent supportive housing for 25 kids with a physical, seeable disability, or if we were talking about 25 Down syndrome kids. According to the DMSR, traumatic brain injuries can cause disability. Manic depressive, bipolar, those are also based in disability. PTSD is real, whether you're fighting on a war field or you're being abused by your spouse. And I'd like you all to examine your bias, because if this were 25 Down syndrome kids, we wouldn't be having this discussion. And I'd like to talk about the people that are disabled that are going to be there. They need permanent supportive housing, which means they need monitoring to make sure people take their medication, which means they need some sort of assistance physically by being in a familiar situation. As other people have talked about, there's no way you can build this facility. This facility has in the time that we need for the money that the county has. And I'd also like to bring your attention to the Concern for Independent Living, Inc. versus the town of Southampton, New York, which is currently under a lawsuit from the town violating the Fair Housing Act and Americans with Disabilities Act. And this is the hill that I will die on. If you continue to violate the rights of disability people, I will make sure that I devote all of my time to the bodies that will enforce.
Thank you.
My name is Antonio Cavallo. I live 2 blocks from the facility, from Aspen. A few years ago, my wife and I found out we were having a son. I'm old, so it was a big surprise. We lived in a little tiny house off 12th Street. And so we moved to the neighborhood that Aspen is. We moved to 22nd and Porter. And the reason we chose that neighborhood is because it's near the train station. It's because it's near the bus routes. It's near the farmer's market. It's near the health department. It's like my wife can take a quick bus ride to United Way to where she works and things. It's a neighborhood that has facilities. We didn't consider the far edges of West Haven or Roy because we wanted to be where things were, where the people that would live in this facility need the pharmacy, they need busing, they need those kind of things. So that's my first point. My second point is, like I said, I had a kid older in life and people asked me right away, what is it that you want? Do you want an athlete? Do you want a genius kid? What do you want? And I said, I wanted one thing. I wanted a kind kid. I wanted kindness. And that was the one thing I was going to teach him. And this facility is kind. I heard people say, why Ogden? Ogden already does all this. Why not Ogden? Ogden can be the kind city. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Adriana Van Vliet. I live in the East Central Ogden community. I live 2 blocks away from the facility. We just walked there last night for the open house. I'm also an Ogden CAN Community Leader Fellow at the moment, so we focus on the East Central neighborhood. I support what's happening, but I really just want to say that I really hope you guys are basing this on data, because the people opposed, there was no data, there are no facts. This is just perception of fear and of what is happening in our neighborhood. I think that before you oppose that, I think that we need to see data that it does make neighborhoods less safe, that Lesser Park already is dangerous, that there are higher crime rates in these places. Because if we're just going off of experience, which is what people opposing it are going off of. I don't have that experience, and a lot of other people don't have that experience. I also walk Lester Park every day by myself. I walk around that area every day. I ride the bus every day. I interact with people in the community every day. It's part of my job as a community fellow. So I would say that, you know, if we're going to be passing on this location, I would want to see data and facts that it would make the neighborhood more dangerous. Because right now, I don't think we should be making decisions based on people's fears when they don't have any data or facts behind them. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana.
Hi, my name is Jordan Scott. I live near 30th and Harrison, so not in the neighborhood, but close. I come from the perspective of having been in one of these group homes, actually very recently overall. I was homeless for a period of time, not very long compared to some. So I lived at the Lantern House for a while, and I didn't struggle with drug use, but I don't want to share my personal stuff. I then got into one of these other group homes it was also run by Weber Human Services and is part of the same kind of grouping. And I was around people who had struggled with drug use and had various mental illnesses, and I slept in the same rooms as them, and I felt safe there. So I can't relate to not feeling safe around the kind of people that are allowed in these. It's not a reward for people who don't want to make their lives better and are there to do bad things. When you get into one of these group homes, you're a certain kind of person, and they're regularly tested for drugs and are expected to be trying to make their lives better. So I wouldn't be in the position that I live in an apartment now. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for the group home that I was allowed to live in.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Sanchez. You all have heard from me before, and you probably already know what I'm going to say. But I just want to tell you, one time, the only time that I felt really afraid was downtown. I had been going, my son owned a store there for years back. And the only time I did feel unsafe was not from a homeless man. Actually, the homeless man is the one that got the other guy to leave me alone. So it's kind of ironic that sometimes the people that some people fear was actually the only person that stood up for me. And I was a stranger. He had no reason to. I just love this location and the whole situation because it gives people what they need. You know, they're just looking for one chance, one person to say, you matter, I believe in you, and you got this, I'm here for you. One person to be on their side to help them get out of a rut. Wonder if you were in that position. Like I said before in the last thing, in the last council meeting, when God gives you a gift, you don't reject it. You just take it and say, thank you, God. With that, I just want to say, tonight, I had to stand. I should have let a lot more other people stand, but I had to stand because guess what? My countenance means a lot. And when I go before God and I say, did I stand up for my fellow man that had nothing and it didn't cost me? Did I stand up and say,
thank you, Linda.
I believe you, I love you, and you're worth it. So
Thank you.
remember, when you're deciding, what would Jesus do, guys? What would
Thank you.
Jesus do?
All right, Travis Pate, Ogden resident, lifelong Ogden resident. I think, as I've said before, I'm the only person that possibly has actually indirectly lived in this facility for over a month. We visited my mother there daily, as it was the Aspen Care Center. And I think that the care and compassion is not the question today. It is simply the location. And there was comments made previously that said no for now. And it's not no for now, it's just no for this location, because the compassion is there, the dynamic is there for each of us to have that outreach. I would invite everyone that has spoken to go back and rewind to the meetings, rewind to the minutes, rewind to the work session, and just study this more intently than possibly the emotional response that we've had. I know when I spoke last, there was a tremendous emotional response in the sense that my sister had just passed away a few days before. We had an individual who shares my sister's name that I'd met just the week before. And I spent 5.5 hours with her, allowing her to just be at church and be playing the piano and just being alive again. And she stood up and said, "Thank you, you gave me back part of my soul." And I said, "Oh, sister, it's shared, it's so shared." She said, "No, you've had other places to be." And I said, "I needed to be here." And that was a one-on-one. And I think of the staffing concerns and other things where it says 1 to 3 and then possibly 2 overnight staff members for 25 individuals.
Thank you, Travis.
So no for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also there's a net gain of 0 now. If we move everyone to there, it's a net gain of 0.
you.
We've not gained anything.
Kevin Lundell. I live in the neighborhood. You know, there was a narrative coming out of the December 3rd meeting that those in favor of this project were paid for. And I'm here today to look around and say, I don't think that's true. And that is the new information today. You asked what the new information today was. The new information is that this community overwhelmingly supports this project in this location, in my neighborhood. We have come out today to say yes, yes in our backyard. Yesterday, I visited a friend who just got housed in the Solis facility. And seeing how well he was doing just a month after being housed has given me a lot of hope for those who will be housed in the Aspen Care facility. The Ogden Housing Authority has already approved this facility and has worked in tandem with Weber Housing Authority. Unlike some of the narrative that has been spoken of up here, they have been working together on this project. The stigma that this area has, my neighborhood has, is not our lived experience. It's an area filled with cultural and economic diversity and a community of people who want to help lift everyone, and that includes the unhoused. And while today we've proven that Ogden residents are indeed different, that we do come out to support the unsheltered, it's up to you, as the council representatives, to prove that the city itself is indeed different.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, my name's Andrea, and I am an Ogden resident. I've never personally experienced homelessness, but could have easily experienced it after the death of my daughter, who was stillborn in 2020, had I not had the support system that I had. The subject of mental health was brought up as a concern that people are having with this specific project, and I'm here to ask you all to just think for 1 second about what it's like to be somebody with a debilitating mental illness. I've had suicidal ideation. I experience mental health issues every single day. And sometimes it's hard for me to get out of bed. I want you to think about your children, all of your children who live lives every single day, who struggle just like everybody else. Would you allow your children to experience homelessness? Or would you do what every parent desires to help them succeed and live lives like all of us? I want you to think about the individuals who will benefit from this facility. They are someone's sons and daughters who are just trying to get by in this hard, difficult life. I plead with all of you to vote yes tonight for somebody else's sons and daughters.
Thank you, Andrea. We do have a hand online. I think, I don't know if we'll be able to hear them, but if Eric, can we just see if that'll work at all? I don't know, Jennifer, sorry. We were told earlier that there was a connection issue. You're certainly welcome to give it a try. You'll need to take yourself off on mute. Andrea. We do have a hand online. I think, I don't know if we'll be able to hear them, but if Eric, okay, you can hear me, but I don't know if I can hear you. know, Jennifer, sorry, we were told earlier that there was a connection issue. You're certainly welcome to give it a try. You'll need to take yourself off on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
We do have a hand online. I don't know if you're able to hear them. Is that what I sound like? Okay, you can hear me. I don't know if I can hear you. Jennifer, sorry, we were told earlier that there was a connection issue. You're certainly welcome to give it a try. You'll need to take yourself off on mute.
Yeah, okay, can you hear me?
We do have a hand online. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
I just want to say that I'm in support of the project. I hope that that gets communicated. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We did get your input there. Appreciate that. Thank you. That was wild. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I mean, I hope this doesn't come up. We're not trying to be adversarial in this. We're really trying to do our best to understand all issues and understand all viewpoints. Public input was not necessarily required in this case, and we wanted to hear and give everyone an opportunity. We know that there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling on this, and that's why we did this, right? So we appreciate you showing up. We appreciate you sharing that. As was mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of things happening with regard to this project with the administration and just exploring and trying to make sure we're doing the best thing, right? As council members, we do have to weigh a lot of different options and a lot of different things, and that's why we're doing this. I don't know if any other council members have anything they'd like to share, any other comments at this point. If you'd like to share something, certainly. I mean, we've had multiple discussions on this, and we hope to continue to have these discussions. And as I mentioned, we're trying to work in good faith and not jeopardize any of the funding opportunities or anything along those lines. We're hoping to take a little bit of additional time on this item, and so the intent and Vice Chair White had suggested maybe we did this before the comments, and maybe that would have made more sense. But the goal was to just table the item so that we could have a little bit additional time for some of that consideration of working, we're anxiously interested in working with the county and Weber Housing Authority and the administration. And ultimately, this maybe ends up the right location. You know, we don't. That's all cards are on the table. We just want to come back to the drawing board, work with the county, and on these items. So, any other comments, if you'd like, from the council members?
Jared, maybe a question for administration. You know, when we did talk about this at the work session last week, a lot of things were put into place. You know, our administrative staff was looking for places and some of those kind of things, and we trust that there was some back and forth between the Weber Housing Authority, the Weber County commissioners, and you know all the stakeholders that are trying to figure out a win-win on this. And I guess I'd like to know from the mayor's perspective if those other stakeholders came to the table or not.
If they came to the table or not?
Yeah, if we're in good faith working with them on this issue.
So I made the good faith offer last week, as you know. I thought the good faith offer was received in the spirit of let's evaluate additional locations. We did what we said we were going to do. We hired a broker, asked to look countywide for locations. We used the criteria that Andy provided in the work session, gave those to the broker. With just a few days time, so that was a Tuesday night, started Wednesday, returned back on Friday, late Friday, with options. There's properties in the city and in the county. So some could work well, some probably won't. But we haven't had a chance to really vet them because just the time constraints and the pressures. So while we were doing that, the community was obviously mobilizing to educate or to advocate, whichever you prefer to see it as. And I do believe, but we have a lot of questions around the finances of how we could potentially offset it. I think those are questions we need the state at the table for. But having worked in state finance some, and I just have to think that there's a way if we were to find a new location. But again, that's going to require good faith assessment. And I don't know which, I think it was council chair that said it, like we could just come back and say that this is the right location or it is the only. But we really haven't had that opportunity in full like we would wish. And having not had that full opportunity, it's just hard to know that there aren't any others. So if we could just have some time to go through the process and either come up with valid alternatives to fast track and to put into place that would alleviate a lot of the concerns that we're hearing tonight, I think that would be great. But it would also be really valuable if we went through the same process and the result was that there aren't any other options. Then I think we have a lot of work to do to figure out how to resolve a lot of the concerns that we're hearing from neighbors at the current location. But at the end of the day, I think our collective goal is to make sure that as many people as possible who need housing are housed. That's the goal. But doing it in a way that is protective and thoughtful and strategic around stabilizing a neighborhood. I do personally share concerns around the proximity to the school. I also have concerns around not having any methods of background checks, et cetera, for residents. But some of those things could probably be alleviated if we get to the table and figure it out together. So that requires time, it requires collaboration, it requires good faith. It requires what we should have all done at the beginning. And I'm not pointing any fingers, I'm just saying that that's how it should have started and it wouldn't have ended like this. That's the lesson learned from all the other projects, and it's certainly the lesson learned from this one, is that we got to do it different, because whoever said it is right. Ogden is different, but we've got to do things different. We can't do things the way we had been doing them. We've got to get it at the table early on. So you still have my commitment to do that. Our staff is available, and we'll do everything we can to help.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to ask legal counsel a point of clarification, if I may. If this is, a motion goes forward to vote on this at this point in time and it is not approved, does that mean that it's done, the project is done? Can it come back forward again? Can it be brought forward again? And I have a follow-up after that as well.
Well, there is a method for the council to reconsider in the future a recent decision. So that's one way it could come back again. And then it could, there could be a whole separate project that comes in the future as a request for a new project. That's another way it could come again. But as for this project, if you voted no and you decided not to reconsider it, then that would be the end of the statutory process that requires the council approval before the county housing authority can do a project in Ogden City.
So if we table this issue, then that still allows us to bring forward this without going through any other procedural.
That's correct.
Events.
That's correct.
Yeah, and the motion would be to extend the item just to give the administration a time to, just to give us a little bit more time to work through some of these issues. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I understand that as well, but I just asked those questions on behalf of everyone that's here, so that procedurally it's very clear what is at stake here and what vote would be taken. My other concern is that one of the key supporters on the city council of this project is not here tonight, and I'm not sure that we have the votes to pass this project tonight. And so that is a concern I just want to express to everyone, along with this thought that is my personal commitment, that I just like this project. I like the location. I like the ideals. I think it's a project that we need to support and do. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for bringing that point up. And yeah, absolutely. We felt like having Councilmember Chaburka here would be good to have this vote with a full council. It feels fair to do that. Any other comments at this point? If not, we can't. That's what I would maybe ask, that we have a motion to extend this item and give us an opportunity to continue in that good faith at work with the council or with the commission and Weber Housing Authority and the council and the administration.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make that motion that we extend or table this, this matter until we have a full, well, just that we extend that to
Motion to
give us
extend.
time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Chair, I would give it a second if we could add that this location is not the optimal location. And then we should be looking at a place.
Yeah, so certainly that's what would the motion to extend will give us an opportunity to analyze all of that. So,
well, what I'm saying is we have looked at this location ad nauseum. So I think we're understanding what this location
sure,
holds.
sure, and then that's what, yeah.
So that's where I'm hopeful that there is a location elsewhere in this county that could service the needs of this.
Yeah.
This is another concern I have is when the mayor made the offer last Tuesday, the forces came together to garner. Well, we had an open house on Friday. We had
Monday.
I guess it was Monday. Yeah, I guess it was Monday. It was advertised on Friday, I believe. So it seems as though maybe there isn't as much good faith on the other side as I was hopeful that there would be.
If we can, if we don't agree with somebody, we ask for a little bit of civility and maybe some kindness and allowing other people to have a different point of view on a topic. So we just would ask that. Thank you. So we have a motion to extend by Councilmember Myers and a second by Councilmember Heyer. And this is a roll call vote. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's just a voice vote.
It's a voice vote. I'm sorry. You're right. It's just a voice vote. So all in favor on the motion to extend? Aye?
Aye.
And there wasn't a second.
Oh, yeah, where's the second by Councilmember Heyer? So we had a motion by Councilmember Myers, second by Councilmember Heyer. This is a voice vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That passes. Okay. Appreciate that. Okay. We'd like to also just recognize Andy. Thank you for being here, and hopefully we can get some things on this calendar to continue this. So thank you again for being here. So, okay, thank you very much. Hold on one second. Okay. Okay. Is there anybody here who would like to address the council on a different item than this? Okay. So we'd like to give you an opportunity to address the council on an item other than we've heard that, and we just appreciate everyone being here for that. So if you'd like to step to the podium, this is an opportunity to address the council on any other ideas or topics. We ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and state your name for the record. Thank you.
Laura Lewis, Ogden resident. Well, this wasn't what I was planning on.
Thank you, Laura.
This isn't what I was planning on talking about tonight. It kind of took me by surprise. I heard the mayor mention tonight that he was going to look at operational efficiencies, and not more than 10 minutes later, he's adding $500,000 to the budget for 3 positions. That sounds like that's kind of a conflict, and I can't, from everything in that discussion, I cannot see one thing that those 2 positions are going to add. If they don't have the authority to make decisions for the mayor and Mara, then what value are they? That I just can't see it, and especially for that much money, and then another internal hire. I think we need to start looking outside the city for some of these executive positions. I mean, this is if I remember right, it was $128,000. It was a high figure. And I looked it up, and a degreed engineer with not a lot of experience starts out at $70,000 in Ogden. So that's a pretty well-paid job from what I can gather. So I think there's ways to reward employees too. You don't have to create a position to give them a big lift. You can do it with bonuses. Give them a bonus. And then you don't have an ongoing position year after year, this expense that's going to be added to the budget. And once you get through this hump, I know right now they're picking up burning bridges from past decisions made. And who's to say that won't taper off and these positions become useless? And we're paying somebody a lot of money that has their value to the city is no longer there. And then I heard that there was the opportunity they could move from one administration to the next. And then so we're setting someone up to have a position that may last 4 years and then they're out the door and looking for a job. This just makes no sense until you can prove there's more value to that. I mean, you're asking, we're already overtaxed. And now we're going to add that to the budget. I think we added 16 other positions this year. So when is it going to stop? Taxpayers cannot keep affording all these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Hello, and thanks again for the opportunity to provide my comments about council norms and procedures. On page 30 and 31, it describes the conditions of which public input, public comment, and public hearings occur. Quote, public comment portion of city council meetings is set aside for members of the public to address the city council on any issue. Each person has up to 3 minutes to provide comment. Individuals may speak for themselves or on behalf of another person or organization. However, the 3 minutes time limitation applies regardless of whether individuals are speaking for themselves or for other. This time is not communicative in the public comment section, and the same is repeated for public input. So in continuing the item that you tabled on December 3rd, you continued an item that was not required for public input. This is true, but this portion of the meeting is a public comment meeting, and I'm entitled to 3 minutes, and I can say what I want to say. So now I'll get to my real point and encourage everybody in the room to continue to speak for 3 minutes on whatever issue they would like. Let's rewind. I was inspired by Travis, and it's my grandma's birthday. Happy birthday, Laura. And I should be with her tonight, but instead I'm here reminding you guys to follow the rules that you passed in September of 2024. And I want to state for a matter of public record, I want clarification on who is we, Mayor Nadolski. Who is we when you said we engaged in a real estate finding process? Who is we when you say we engaged in finding locations? Because I know it certainly didn't include residents, nor did it include people in this specific neighborhood. I also want to rewind to 2019 because the Ogden City housing discussions were occurring in September and October of 2019. And with the exception of Chair Ritchie, Councilmember Myers, and Councilmember Dave, all of you participated in 4 fact-finding sessions on housing conversations in Ogden specific. As a result of these conversations, you were presented with a 2019 Housing Needs Assessment for East Central Ogden, an 80-page document written by Dr. Jenny Nagy, a renowned economist here in our community and expert on housing. That housing assessment has been at your disposal since 2019, and you've chosen to ignore it. If you want to spend time moving forward, perhaps you should look to the past and the seats at the tables that you did not sit at. I want to also stress to you guys the importance of trusting subject matter experts on this topic. We have a local homelessness coordinating council with 25 experts in homeless services, and none of you have engaged in this public meeting, to my knowledge, or to anybody else on that committee's knowledge, in good faith for 15 years. And also one final point, Ogden Housing Authority already approved this in accordance to the state statute Gary just recommended. So we already have the first approval required. Thank you.
Linda Sanchez. I was asked to make sure that everybody is aware that we are having an Ogden City Town Hall with Mayor Nadolski and Council Chair Ritchie. They have accepted the invitation at the to the second Ogden City Town Hall on January 20th at 6 p.m., which is at the main library on Jefferson Avenue. Everyone is welcome. And what this is a more of a discussion format so that we can get back and forth dialogue. And that we hope that you come with questions and things that you're interested in and have want answers to. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Soto, Ogden resident. Mayor, you know, we spent a lot of time talking in the years leading up to your election as mayor when you were on the city council, and I spoke to you at length because you were willing to listen more than anyone about a lot of the mess that was being created in the city. And I know you've inherited a lot of that mess, but you know, I've said it to you before, you worked hard to inherit that mess. And what I want to see is that I think this project's great where it is. I think the way we've talked about the people that are going to be there is unacceptable, honestly. But we need to move forward with something. Every day this is kicked down the road. I mean, you know, the city acted in bad faith on this project in the past, and I'll leave it at that. But we need to find a solution ASAP. I mean, any of you ask yourself how many days you'd be willing to stay out in the cold overnight waiting for housing. And I'm going to bet it's 0. But you've all been fortunate. You're very fortunate people. Find a solution real fast or move forward with this real fast. That's all I'm asking. Thanks.
Thank you.
Chris Berrigan, Ogden City resident. I want to absolutely thank Ken for just being a piñata tonight. I know this hasn't been easy for you. I want to very much so thank Sean for his steadiness to make sure that we figure out what's the right thing to do. Although I think the right thing is right in front of all of us. And I want to echo what Heath just said. I'd like you guys to consider staying outside while this is tabled until it's time for this decision to be made. Because I know this, I know what Andy's efforts have been in order to vet this thing out, to find a solution to help people that we should love and care about in our community. It's a pretty well thought out plan. And you know, I've been a member of this little local church that's here in Utah since I was 17 years old. And I've said it before, there's an image, there's a painting of Jesus Christ holding up what's like a sheet and unveiling a person in poverty underneath that sheet. And this is probably, you know, I make jokes a lot. And I wonder sometimes when that photo was taken. Was it taken to lift and reveal who we need to take care of? Or is it to lower it over that person so that we can hide the issue, that we can push it to other areas, that we can push it to the outskirts, that we can do whatever we can? I know that my wife and my kids came up to speak earlier, and they work so hard to try to help people in this community, to the loss of our business, to bankruptcies, to being ridiculed by our friends and former friends, just to try to help out others. And I would implore you to give us a definitive date on when you are going to say yes to this. And if you decide to say no to this because you think bad people are going to come in and bad people are going to do things, say it to our faces. And at the same time, too, realize last time I checked, there's a lot of other people that are doing bad things to our kids at schools that don't happen to be homeless, that happen to be parts of big organizations. These people are just looking for some support. And I think of the person that I think of most right now is my niece who's homeless on the streets. And I hate to think that she's going to continue to get older, like Carrie said, and get quote unquote uglier and less desirable. I want us to shelter those people. And if it means to my personal finances and my personal well-being, then, God save all of us.
So you're a disabled person coming up here. Adrian Zubler, Ogden citizen. So much to say and do, and everybody's got different opinions about what's going on. I say, wow. I guess maybe the thing that I see with this is that there are people that are disturbed about disabled people. There are people that think that disabled people that go to shelters or that are homeless are there because they're alcoholics, they're drug addicts, or they're mentally ill. And so, you don't want to listen to that and you want to shove them away. Well, I can tell you, based on my personal opinion and my personal experience, I used to make $100,000 a year. I had a great job, great husband who made even more. And I thought, gee, I have it made. This is a situation where when I looked around and I saw homeless people, I thought, well, you deserve that. You decided that that's what you wanted. And you didn't know how to handle it. So you're homeless. Well, guess what? I found out that any of us can go through that situation. And I found out because my husband died. I ended up having a brain aneurysm, and you'll probably think I'm crazy because I get up here and say different things to y'all. But I had that back in my 30s. And about 8 years ago, I had a life or death situation here in Ogden, excuse me, that put me in a situation where if it wasn't for my landlord being very understanding, I would have been homeless. I would have lived in my car, or I would have lived on the street. And so I guess, like I said, I thought that I was untouchable. So I think that a lot of folks feel that way because you can go home and you can go to a warm place tonight. We know that we don't have enough homes, we don't have enough places for even the people who work. So the homeless people are even in worse situation. So I guess I look at, they don't have a place sometimes to be able to go to the homeless shelter that we have here. They have to stay outside and sleep. And I guess I look at y'all and I say, you look in their eyes and you tell them they're not worth whatever it is that takes to get them into a warm, safe place.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sean Bishop, Ogden City resident. I also live a couple blocks from this project. I would also like to echo Chris's question of when can we get a date for the next milestone or for this decision. And I want to remind everybody who spoke before that the people who will go into this facility are already our neighbors. They're not going to be recruited to come here. They'll be here. They're already here. They'll just have a place to stay. Just because this facility focuses on the chronically unhoused, disabled, and addicted doesn't mean that all the residents fit all three of those categories. The people who will occupy the space are actively seeking care. There's already a deep list of applicants because the program is already saving lives in the scattered site model. People want to be here. They won't abuse this privilege. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. If the problems unhoused people cause neighbors are so difficult to tolerate, how does refusing to house people help? This program creates a keystone on top of a web of services that can help solve these problems instead of delay them. We have an opportunity to do something nobody else is doing in this area. This is a space nobody is occupying. Why not lead? Why not show everyone else how it's done? There are people in Ogden and in every city in this state who have nowhere to go in a code blue. There are people who have to sit up in a chair all night long in Ogden and get kicked out if they lie down overnight. That's inhumane. When some of you ask, okay, fine, but will this be the last one? It sounds like you're asking for permission to stop meeting people's needs. Whether that's your intention or not, that's how it sounds. While we hem and haw about the location, there are people who are dying. They will die. We need this. I want this in my backyard. And really quickly, I just want to read a text from someone I love who was unhoused. I know a lot of people have their run-ins, have their situations, but I wonder if those people have ever spoken to somebody who's unhoused. This person said to someone I love, I'm okay. I'm just trying to do one day at a time thing. Just got over a week of trying to make it. Just give it a few more days and make sure everything's out of my system so I can talk to my boss and make some money. That's all we can do. Remember, our name is a big name. We carry that name, and you carried it when you ran for mayor. You did our family proud. I'm looking to do that someday too. Tell Sean I love him. You still owe me Thanksgiving dinner. Remember, you should come down and treat me to a dinner when I'm still waiting. I understand. I love you. I love your sisters and your mom. I know you're protecting them and taking care of them. I love you. This project's been going on for 5 years. I only learned about it really recently, and I feel a little embarrassed at that. But it's also not my job to know these things, and it is yours. And it's hard for me to hear people say the neighborhood doesn't want this when nobody's asked me, and a lot of you have my phone number. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean.
Jordan Scott. I wanted to bring up another consideration as far as where it could be. If we expect people to be able to access the resources they need to go to treatment, just to be able to get around to the things that people need to get around to in order to rebuild their lives, we need to take into consideration how far from any location they would need to walk in order to get to places like Weber Human Services or to the Midtown Clinic or just all the different DWS downtown, all these different things that are required to help people get on their feet. It's also good to take into account the future plans the UTA is putting in for how they're going to change the bus system over the next couple of years, because if none of you have ever been reliant on the bus system, it really does limit where you can get to in a day. And you can't expect people to be able to improve their lives and to get off the streets if you can't turn around and say, well, there's going to be a bus nearby that you'll be able to, so you can get to a new job, or you can go around to look for a place to live, or get to your medical appointments. Another thing I'll say is what someone else said. The people are already in the community. If you think they're not already walking, the same people aren't already walking or haven't walked through that neighborhood, then you're mistaken. It's very hard, really. One thing I learned from being at the Lantern House, it's really hard to actually identify someone as homeless for sure. There are very few people that you can look at them and say, oh yeah, they're definitely struggling with something, or they're definitely, you can walk outside and I can point to people that I saw at the Lantern House, either in the past or who are still there, that are still on the streets, and they go through the same neighborhoods. They walk through the same neighborhoods or go to places, and so they're there. We're just choosing whether or not they're going to be able to go inside a building at night. So yeah, and as far as Ogden taking up a lot of the responsibility, it really can't be anywhere else in the county because all of the resources are here. I mean, you can't expect someone going back to the transportation to be able to go out to one of the outlying towns and be able to come all the way into Ogden every day to get what they need.
Thanks, Jordan.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Teresa Bramwell. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So what I would like to talk about today is crime. I have a lot of experience with crime in Ogden City. I've been a crime victim many, 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 many times. I know who some of those criminals are. Other ones, I don't know who they are. I know some of those criminals have been arrested that have made me a crime victim. Others have not because I couldn't catch them. You know, I couldn't follow them to wherever they ran to. But when I have been a crime victim and I've been able to identify who some of those criminals were, I requested meetings with some of the people in this state that deal with homeless people. One of them was in the state office in Salt Lake City, who is the head of the entire homeless program. He was here in the meeting on December 3rd. I scheduled a meeting with him. I told him all the problems that I'd had. I told him of the hundreds of thousands of dollars that I'd lost being a crime victim, having my property damaged, having my property stolen, having my property traded for drugs. And he had zero solutions for me. He didn't have one single suggestion on how I could improve my life or improve my situation. He did say that the person that should be responsible for that was somebody else who's in this room right now that works with Weber County. So I went to that person and I tried to explain the problems I was having with all the crime and being a constant crime victim. And she took no responsibility for that whatsoever. She said they didn't even have people in this area that would have made me a crime victim. It was impossible because those people didn't exist in my area. Now I come to these meetings and I listen to all these people talk about all these programs and places that are in my area. I didn't know any of those places were there. I don't use any of those things. I've never been into the Midtown Clinic. I've never, whatever this guy just talked about, I don't even know of any of those things. What I know about is being a crime victim. And what I would like to know are the solutions on how I can stop being a crime victim, because that's what I would like. That's all I want. I want to be able to just be a property owner and a taxpayer and successful. I want to be able to own businesses. I want to be able to be a successful human being. How can I do that? Find the answer for me, please.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Shelby Hornbeck. I'm an Ogden resident. This is my first Ogden City Council meeting as a new resident looking to get involved in the community. And I have to say that while I'm encouraged by the outpouring of support for our unhoused community, I'm disappointed by the antagonism of some members of the council toward the community members who came out to support this permanent housing facility. The fact that a council member could consider education and community engagement around this project to be not acting in good faith communicates to me that this member seems to not see much value in the sincere input that the community has provided to this project. When it comes to the project, a desire to put our homelessness issue out of sight and out of mind is not a valid reason to reject this well thought out location. And I'm also happy to email research that shows that these types of housing facilities actually save taxpayer money over time. And I hope that the council will do the right thing sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jackie Kent, Ogden resident. I have more of a practical question. I'm sort of only about like a year and a half into paying attention to how the work sessions and the council works. And the thing that concerned me the most about the last one was, I mean, I think we all say that we agree about the program and everything like that, but it seems like from the questions that were being asked that people were extremely unfamiliar with the program. And I was reading a document dated back from August, and I read it because you guys so lovingly provide it for us online. Like I clicked on it, and I like to read like manuals and stuff. So I read the community plan and I read all the things that you guys had in there. And so I felt like I knew more about the program than some of the council members. And that doesn't give me the confidence if so late in the game, that's what we're doing. And I think I would understand your arguments more if I knew that you were coming from an informed position. And I think if we're all informed the same amount, then we can have the real, true, meaty conversations. And I did send you an email about this, but I think I want it on public record because it's not even about the thing, it's about how much we're knowing about the thing when we come in. I want you guys to know what you're talking about so that I can have confidence that you read the whole packet. I don't know, and if I'm misguided about how the things work, please let me know. If there's just something that I don't know or context that I wasn't provided, I think maybe we could benefit from some of that too, so that we're not arguing online or anything like that about things and causing more problems actually for you. I would hope that we can help you clearly communicate what the real issue is, so we're not arguing about exterior things and we're really arguing about what the true issue is. So if somebody can answer that for me, I might have to step out, but I'll be paying attention on YouTube. So like I want to know what your what you come into those work sessions knowing and what you're expected to know this late in the game when a vote is coming right up that has been already discussed in the past. So that would be very clear for us, and that I think that we can help you communicate as well. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lucy Berrigan, and I'm an Ogden resident. From what I've heard tonight, is being against people because most people are scared. And what are we scared of? Throughout this meeting, people have said that they didn't feel safe, but 2 kids came here and they told you that they aren't scared and they are more than happy to have this project in their community. So what other reason is there to say no? How we're so concerned about our own safety when largely we don't need to be, but they do need to be. They're scared of their addictions, they're scared of their vulnerability, they're scared of being out there on their own. When someone is scared, someone else steps in to take care of them. It's our job to make a few of our neighbors less scared. One of my best friends, whose family doesn't live far from the project, said that without a program like that, her mom and dad would have never found a life. Her dad would have never gotten sober, and we would have nothing. I don't think that they understand what they could be providing. No one knew we were homeless. We worked full-time, but without the resources, we could never climbed or dug a hole out of 6.5 years. There's nothing to be afraid of, but tons of help and love to give. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Angel Castillo, Ogden resident. On September 10th in 2015, I came to Ogden to race USA Cycling's Masters Nationals. I was the number 2 woman in my age group. And as we went down 25th and I took a right on Ogden Avenue, 2 laps to go, a girl crashed into me and I hit the back of my head at 28 miles an hour. I experienced, when Heath came to pick me up, I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't form sentences. I couldn't put together strings of thoughts. I was temporarily disabled for almost a year. And that brings me to remind you of your work session, July 12th in 2022, when Anna Davidson brought to you the story of a homeless individual who was a professor with a pension, who had a TBI. traumatic brain injuries, PTSD, all on a spectrum. Thank God I recovered. Some people don't. That professor didn't. And Councilman Heyer, you expressed so much empathy and wanted to invite Anna back so you could hear more about the challenges and how we're meeting them with Anna's wonderful program. Where's that, Councilman Heyer? And this whole thing of people keep going, drugs, alcohol, this is not a detox facility. This is for people with disabilities, a traumatic brain injury, PTSD, some sort of DMSR diagnoses that says that they cannot function and need support. 25 people are counting on you. And when those 25 people get out of the temporary housing that they're in, they're going to go back on the streets and they're going to start to cost you a lot of money. Talk to Anna about that. It costs us so much time in policing. And this is a solution that's right here, right now. And the concerns of the citizens of like, oh, I don't want this in my neighborhood. This facility is ideal for this. There is an outdoor courtyard area in the middle for people to congregate if they are smoking. They're not going to be milling around in the neighborhood. And if they were, that's not that bad of a thing because this is not a detox facility. These people are not on drugs and alcohol. They have a disability. They have a disability that prevents them from holding a job and being able to have a home. And this is a by right property. And at the time, the administration, when Aspen House was going through planning, the previous administration did not act in good faith. And in fact, did some very legally questionable things.
Thank you.
Think about the exposure.
I lived less than a half a mile from this facility. In 2009, as I was going through a divorce and my son was getting his autism diagnosis, I found a 2-bedroom unit in a darling craftsman home on the corner of 24th and Jackson. Y'all are probably familiar with it. It was $450 a month in rent. I would not have been able to survive had I not found that place to live. And in that home, I sat on the radiant heater and applied for my FAFSA so that I could go to Weber State. I applied for and received EBT benefits so that I could afford groceries for me and my son, because despite the fact that I was working full-time and going to school full-time, I still could not afford to buy us groceries. In that neighborhood, just around the corner from the location that we're talking about, I had the opportunity to start rebuilding my life that was crumbling. A year later, my then boyfriend, now my husband, we bought a house just a block east, literally half a block down the street, using the Own in Ogden grant. And it was in this home that we built our home together, welcoming a baby boy, celebrating my graduation from Weber State University, and getting married. And we also had the opportunity to build equity in that home, to live where we are now. We love Ogden. I attribute much of my growth and success to this incredible city, including the 2.5 years I spent on the Ogden Diversity Commission for this very body. I have been an ambassador for the Ogden Marathon, a board member at both Weber State University and Ogden Weber Technical College, and I'm currently serving in my 3rd year on the Ogden School Board. None of those things would have happened had I not had access to the resources that I so desperately needed 16 years ago as a single mother when I was nearly facing homelessness. Ogden is a gem. And given the chance, I believe that this gritty city has the potential to polish its residents the way it polished me. I urge City Council members to approve this project and allow Weber Housing Authority to move forward with their work in serving some of our most vulnerable residents. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hello, my name is George Berrigan. So I just kind of like to point out that as one of the individuals here tonight was stating that she was suffering from like a crime victim from these homeless individuals. They are suffering from way more than that. And also, she also has like said that she lives in Salt Lake and in Ogden, and they don't even have a place to stay. So I hope you guys consider doing this, because some people have 2 houses and they don't even have one.
Thank you, George.
So I just want to make a comment. I mean, people are coming up to make comments, and I think it's really important to be considerate of everybody's comments, not just one side. So please don't, just be careful in your comments back and forth.
Were you asking for time now? You're asking for me to go ahead.
And I think I think we should adjourn. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Bob.
Good evening. My name is Robert Hunter. I'm a resident of Ogden. I just want to say that those of us who know you well, and I know you all well, we do not question your compassion at all. It's a matter of just getting this project done. And I just want to remind you that hundreds of thousands of dollars are online, and a very important timeline is online. And I hope you'll be able to bring this to a conclusion next week. Now, you've heard a lot of misinformation tonight, and I'll be sending each one of you a communication with what I believe are clarifications. But please act on this and let's get it resolved. Thank you very much for your time and for spending the hours and hours you do serving this city that we all love. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so Jackie had asked a question about.
You have one more.
We have one more? Okay. Travis, you're up.
Perfect. What about Asia and Antarctica? Sorry, not just Europe. Sorry. I think the dynamic for me is some of the times we just miss the mark. I don't think we've missed the mark on this because we've put so many resources and time and energy into the dynamic that we've just been talking about. But I've talked about missed opportunities before. Ogden City had this beautiful thing called the Junction with the flow rider and the skydive place and everything else, and we actually hosted the statewide boys 2A, 3A, and 4, or 3A, 4A, and 5A state baseball tournaments at Lindquist Field. And Ogden City was down there providing concessions, and not one thing on the back of our ticket said, please join us for this open house that weekend. All these youth were here in Ogden, and we didn't invite them to our biggest money dump at the time. But then, like I said, the benefit aspect of that. So I think, and then just a few years later, World Cup Archery came here, and it was the last qualifier for the Korean Olympics right here in Ogden. Pretty amazing the things that we continue to do when the community pulls together. But there can be still some missed opportunities when we pool those resources and those great opportunities. And I think the dynamic to me is like I said, Ogden City did the concessions, and we had a block from there at Lindquist Field had that much of a resource, but we turned our back on it. I think the dynamic to me is the opportunity for us to just continue to work as a team. I talked in December about the Christmas tree Jubilee and the resources that every high school in Weber County now has a teen center. Might we pattern that and say, okay, Ogden High, Ben Lomond, can we do the same thing? Because then we have that opportunity to be a little bit more focused. And so I think that's, and then I think the only other thought that I have was with regards to zoning and code and all those other things. When we do a public notice, the work session should be part of that public notice. The planning commission meeting should be part of that public notice. I shouldn't just get something that says we're rezoning your property tomorrow, be here. When there was already a work session, so we come in just looking like idiots and oafs, and you guys have already had 3 weeks of feed and dialogue. And so then when we come up here and then we're given our 3 minutes, and there is an option for you guys to turn it back to us for 1 minute when there's questions, but there's almost this little salve that's put on our wounds when administration gives the chance or council staff gets the chance to just talk us down, to talk down our concerns, to talk down our problems, just so the vote can go ahead. So I appreciate the diligence in this. I appreciate the diligence that it's continued. So please look at that for the public notice side
Thank
of
you,
things.
Travis.
Thank you.
Hi, Deborah Darrington, resident, and everything I have here is in Ogden. I have more, because this is public comment, more a comment than an opinion or trying to sway someone one way or another. Just bringing, I heard a lot of people talking about bringing facts to the table. I have been in the heart of that area since 2008 and have on a daily basis observed that over more than a decade. Some issues that I have concerns with in that area is one of the properties that I have there, I have housed some of my employees, and most recently the employee that I had housed there was just coming out of a rehab center for mostly smoking but also alcohol. And it worked out great for him, and then he humbly came to me and he said, I appreciate the opportunity to be in the home, but he said, I've found that I've struggled more opposing drugs and alcohol in this area because the access to it was so high in that area. I personally have been approached for purchasing drugs while I've been on my property because of previous tenants and things there. There is a sincere issue of that in that area. It's highly concentrated, and I have experience with disability. I raised my nephew who had alcohol fetal syndrome. He's 4 years older than I am. Amazing individual. So my heart and compassion goes to those who wouldn't have a home otherwise and do need that extra assistance to get up in the morning, to realize they don't need to buy more deodorant just because we bought it last week. I will say my concern for that area is mostly drugs, and it may be a misunderstanding on my part that that is part of what the individuals that are included in this. I believe everyone has a shot and everyone deserves an opportunity, but we do have a high crime situation in that area, greatly revolving around drugs. The other comment that I'd make is more on a personal level as a mom. When I was here on December 3rd, I mentioned that my own son had come to my home after not seeing him for a year and announcing to me that he was homeless and was living in his car. I immediately, as a compassionate person and especially as his mother, started throwing out whatever I could to help him as an individual, but realized that enabling him and giving him all of those things was not exactly what he needed. I had to sit back and watch his car be repossessed, knowing that he did have a home. I do have him in one of my spaces, and he has a home with his children. We're working on that, but sometimes when we do have facilities, as Ogden has, we do have to, as you are doing, step back and evaluate it in depth, and I appreciate your time in looking at that and all the facts and situations around it.
Thank you, Deborah. Okay, thank you everyone for being here tonight. I know there was a question by Jackie about our process, and I think oftentimes, so we do get the packet, we review that packet. Oftentimes, some of the discussion that happens in the work session is we may already know the answers to the questions, but we ask the questions to get them on so that people listening in can hear maybe some of those answers as well. And sometimes, you know, so we're trying to learn together, right? So we're you know, working through the packet and the information. You know, there is a lot to read and go over, and so yeah, that's the process. Typically, an item will come to the work session. We'll have a discussion on it. Then it'll usually come into the council meeting or the RDA meeting. Mayor, I don't know if you have any comments either. There's a couple, I think, directed to you.
Yeah, and please let me know if I missed any. I've like been scrambling notes all over the place, so it'd be easy for me to miss something. I thought to start my remarks, where did Bob go? I want to start with Bob's remarks. That he said he believes that we are all people of compassion, and I saw a lot of people in the crowd nodding yes, that was the case. Because I think we need to remember that There's good people, good humans, good hearts here. I heard a lot of accusations as though that's not the case. And so if we truly believe that everybody involved is without a heart and without compassion, then we're going to have a really hard time proceeding. But if we can remember that there are good people, good humans, they're just looking for good answers and a good solution. So I appreciate you saying that. Then I think we have a chance. Linda, you asked what would Jesus do? I think that's a really fair question. And so I started to scribble notes as to what I think Jesus would do. And I think that Jesus would hire 3 homeless service advocates in our police department. I think Jesus would lead out and be the first of its kind medical advocate program in the state of Utah by having a paramedic at Ogden Fire Department. I think Jesus would provide homeless court services through the justice court in the shelter. I think Jesus would host the largest shelter per capita in the state of Utah. I think Jesus would implore us to participate in the Weber Morgan Local Homeless Council. As was mentioned and supported by Taylor, I believe that, yeah, in my administration, we are participating. We do that with all of our homeless service advocates and Mayor Brown, our CAO. I think Jesus would encourage us to participate in the Code Blue Task Force, both with our homeless service advocates and our CAO. Encourage us to work with the county and the county commission, who has the ultimate authority in state statute to provide for that service. I think that he would encourage us to provide support from our planning division and our fire marshal to be actively looking to this day for a location for a warming center. I think Jesus would implore us to support the Ogden Housing Authority's Solace Project. Jesus would implore us to provide $500,000 to YCC for a new shelter. Provide almost $74,000 to the Roads to Independence to support disabled projects and needs. Provide support to the Lantern House, help with cleanups. Provide compassionate care, compassionate enforcement, and accountability through our Ogden Police Department. Locate the medical service advocate there and provide safety for our HSAs and our community police while we're doing it. I think that we have, that's just what's off in the top of our head, you guys. That's what Jesus would do, and that's what Ogden's doing. And we're talking to each other like we're doing nothing. We are doing a lot. We're punching way above our weight. And we are recognized for that at the state level because it matters. It does. There's no disagreeing with that. It matters. So as we have this conversation, let's ask ourselves, what would Jesus do? And let's remember what Ogden is doing as well. It's not nothing. Can we do more? Of course. Will we do more? Absolutely. Starting with getting to Jackie's other question. She had a concern. She wants to know that we're asking the questions and have the information that we need to make good decisions. I agree. That's what we're trying to do. I talked about the projects in the past. It's been a real challenge because there was a dynamic. And I'm not pointing fingers when I say this. Okay? But it's really hard to get anything done when we are communicating through the property ombudsman, when we're getting information through grandma requests instead of just a free flow of information with each other. That's back then, okay? We're trying to turn the page across the board. I will say this openly and honestly and unabashedly, that one dynamic in this county and in this city that has always held us back is that we don't all get along across political jurisdictions. And that can be a really toxic dynamic. It keeps us from succeeding. We've got to have partners at the council, in the administration, in our county commission, in our state legislature, in our congressional delegation. Everybody needs to be focused on the betterment of our communities. When we have that dynamic, we have better outcomes for our cities and our towns. When we don't have that, we are limited based on what we're able to do all alone. We've suffered the consequences of that for years. I see a lot of people nod their heads because we all have experienced it. It has been hard. We only have so much energy to give, and it would be a real shame if we're giving all of our energy to negative fighting, okay? But there do come times that you've got to feel like you've got to stand up. I get that. This has been one of those projects that has elicited that because we haven't been able to turn that page, right? So in all those other projects, we have turned that page. I know we can. We have to. That's all we're asking for. No one has said outright no. No one voted no and that didn't turn this thing down. But we are absolutely on our way to a better way. I know it. I know we can do it. Because everybody involved had good people with good hearts, remember? That's where I'm trying to get us to as a city across the board. This has no doubt been the hardest one. I have, in personal experience, watched this council maintain a strong sense of grace and good faith and a willingness to participate. I'm thankful for that. I've had some really productive conversations today with county leaders, and they want the same because they've experienced the same in other projects. It can happen because we are making it happen. It's not idle, like it's real. We don't have to hold back progress in other projects in order to get what we want on one. We can make sure that every single project rests on its laurels by itself. We can decouple those decisions. We don't have to be transactional. Our goal is to be transformational, including in this project and including for the lives of those that are affected. I can't remember who it was that made the point, but we can't be here calling people with disabilities drug addicts and criminals. We can't make that assumption. If that's what's been portrayed, that I don't think that's anybody's intent. I think we do need to recognize the fact that drugs have swept our nation. Fentanyl has absolutely swept our nation. There is no city or town or state that's immune to it. There's no person immune to it either. So I do think that it's a very relevant question, disabled or not. I also believe, and it struck me in the conversation today, that I think for those that are housed in this project, we owe it to them to make sure that we are screening those people that they live near and with as well. Because they've got to have a chance for success in these housing units as well. Screening in terms of drug and violence, et cetera. And so we're not just asking, hey, who's using this home and how do we make sure they don't commit crimes outside the facility? I think we also need to be making sure that we're not housing people alongside extremely vulnerable population that could hurt them, right? These are the kinds of things that we want to talk about, that's all. We want to look at some other locations. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But there are elements of this project that maybe we can improve if we just work together, okay? That's what I'm committing to do. That's what I've actually seen the council commit to do. And I think that it's in good faith. And I actually think that the pressures that have been created because of this project is going to get us there eventually. There were pressures on parking at one point, but we're breaking through that. Sometimes it takes pressure to break through. So be it. Okay? That's why we all have a mic. Sometimes for a minute and a half, sometimes for 3. Because this ought to be the place of last resort. If you can't get your voice heard, that's what this was for. But the most productive place is at the table. Okay? So years have gone by of us suffering the consequences of our own infighting and not being able to get along. It's cost us long enough. The reason I am so committed to answering all these questions is to make sure that we don't suffer the same consequences as we have from the past. Ogden's done with it. That means we're done with projects happening to us. We're done with not having the decision-making authority that we know we deserve. We're done not being at the table. This is Ogden City demanding a seat at the table. It's not Ogden City demanding no or saying no. But it is Ogden City putting its foot down after it's happened many, 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 many times in the past. We're tired of it. We are at the table, and we are at big time tables now, you guys, as a city. We're at tables that we always wanted to be at because of work that's been done in the past and current. Work that builds on everything that everybody's been doing. I share all that because there's a lot more at stake than just this project and just those that are looking to be housed, although that is significant. And that's why I am committed to trying to find answers and solutions. It's not my decision to make alone. That's not how those governments are set up. It's for a reason. I don't have unilateral authority in most of the things I do. So we all have to find a way to get to a place where we're comfortable with this project, whether it's in the current location or a different one, or if it's in working with the Housing Authority on the elements and the requirements and how those are insured for the long term. Not just said here, insured. There was a time where we have developers coming in here telling us what they're going to do, and if we don't have it in writing, they don't have to do that. Well, we might have the commitment of Andy Beatles and we might believe in her and trust in her to do that, but what about after Andy? How do we ensure that the people in this facility are protected and the people outside and around it? Those are the questions we're asking, and I think that makes somebody like Jackie a lot more comfortable when they find out that we have answers to all that. I will admit, I thought I understood a lot of things, and I haven't. There's been new information for me recently. And that ought to signal to all of us that there's still questions left unanswered. Can you please give us the grace to ask the questions and get the answers? You gave us the opportunity to participate in the open house. I had to send someone in my place because I'm about 3 months out from getting on my calendar. So I had parking to do at the exact same time. A lot of people were here counting on us, and I had to be there. I couldn't let it go. But we are learning along the way, and we deserve the grace and the space to do that. Okay? So thank you, everybody, for all the remarks that you've made. They have not gone unnoticed. All we ask is that you notice in return that we're trying our best and that we do have good hearts and that we're trying to create a place for good faith to exist in this community on every project, just like we have on all the others. Let's do it the Ogden way, the new Ogden way, not the old. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor. Any other comments from council members?
Yeah, Chair, I think I was called out a couple times, so I thought maybe I better reply to some of that. And Angel kind of talked about the councilman hire that was responding to Anna Davidson's presentation that she gave in a work session. And I am as compassionate as anyone, as is all you colleagues. I really, as we've talked about this, the compassionate argument is not lost on us. But we as council members don't have the luxury of only listening to the compassionate argument. There are other issues that need to be considered when this kind of a thing comes up. This has nothing to do with NIMBYism, not in my backyard. However, it does have something to do with this very location because of the concentration of poverty that is found there. Ogden started an initiative over 10 years ago, the Quality Neighborhoods Initiative, where we committed to put in $1 million a year to help to lift that area and to help to disperse the poverty or to eliminate it from certain people's lives. And during the work session or the council meeting a month ago, there was some stats given to us that showed the benefits and the fruits of that investment. And it wasn't just the $10 million that the city has put in. I think it has caused, I believe it was $45 million with other people's grants, et cetera, into that area that have helped that. This would be counter to that. And so that I think is important. The concentration doesn't help people because there's, and I'm not very eloquent at explaining all of it, but I think all of you understand. You put a whole bunch of people with problems, they kind of just work together to stay in the problem rather than to have enough people around them to help them out of that problem. So that's why I think that this is something that is important to look at other locations. Now, Ogden does have a housing authority, and I still shake my head as to why it's important that we need two. And which one that is organized here and one that was organized somewhere else that only wants to do work here. Ogden is taking care of almost all of this problem in our county, and Ogden cannot do this by ourselves. It just can't be solved in Ogden. It's got to be spread around. Now, Weber County has the housing authority. They've got Weber Human Services, Weber Health Department, and those services, we need to rethink how that all works. Much like our library system, we have satellite libraries so people don't have to go to downtown Ogden to get a book. We need to have those services in satellite locations so that these kinds of situations can be spread out. That would be a very good use for Weber Housing Authority to work on a project like that, so that we don't concentrate the problem. Honestly, I'm as compassionate as anybody. When young Mr. Berrigan was talking, man, I almost welled up with him, because I really understand the concerns. I am a strong follower of Jesus, and I do want to do what Jesus would do. I think we can find some consensus if we will kind of put down the idea that, well, this is what we've started to do, and we've got these issues. Ogden has committed to come to the table to help relocate this thing and to make sure that the ARPA dollars can be used. Let us do that. The comment I made about it didn't seem like there was very good faith was that it just seemed like a doubling down to me. It just felt like that. It didn't feel like, okay, well, where can we go? What can we do? I didn't sense there was any of that. And there needs to be some of that, or we're just going to be fighting all the way to kingdom come. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Councilmember Heyer. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Thank you again. I know this is probably something we could talk about all night, so I appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate fellow council members, and we've had a lot of conversation. I know Councilmember Graff and I spoke, and he's like, "Yeah, we're losing sleep over these things because we care about it." So, anyway, so look forward to this continued dialogue. So, thank you very much. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, second by Councilmember Graff to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.